And welcome back to Zone 4, everybody. I am Brant Fowler, aka the Gonzo Goose, back with you for another installment of
Zone 4 Top 5.
So before I jump into this week's Top 5, I do want to give two honorable mentions, two titles that nearly made it into the Top 5, but a couple of other books edged them out, just barely. First is The Walking Dead number 121, fantastic issue, and kind of takes us into the next chapter of the All Out War event. So a very good issue there. And also Winter Soldier, The Bitter March number 1. The first issue of this miniseries was far better than I expected it to be. It was a very good period piece, super spy kind of story. Fantastic art, fantastic writing. Really enjoyed that book as well. But they did not make it, so let's jump into the countdown and see which books did.
Number 5.
Coming in at number 5 is a one-shot from Zenescope Entertainment. This is Robin Hood, Age of Darkness. And this is an Age of Darkness tie-in, that whole event that's going on in Zenescope. And it also references Realm Knights, which Robin Hood is a part of. And it references the previous two mini-series of Robin Hood, which are Robin Hood and Robin Hood Wanted. But you didn't need to read any of that to get this story, to enjoy this story. It's exactly what it is, what it says it is. It's a one-shot, self-contained story where Robin Hood is transported to this portal and has to deal with the Dark Queen and Malek and some other forces, and how she gets out of there and where that goes from there. Obviously, the way it ends, it kind of gives some closure, but it also leads into further story points, or if you want to follow more of a particular part of that story, you can read Realm Knights or read some of the Age of Darkness. So it's kind of that way, but I really enjoyed it. I love this character, love the previous stuff she was in. I'm a fan of Realm Knights, so this was a no-brainer for me. Really solid one-shot story, and I'd highly recommend it. So that's why it lands at number 5.
Number 4.
Coming in at number 4 is Justice League of America number 12. This is, of course, a Forever Evil tie-in, as Stargirl is trying to make it to LA to stop Firestorm from exploding and killing everybody, including the Justice League, whose psyches are still trapped in the Firestorm Matrix. And all the while, Martian Manhunter is battling his own, he's done with his own fight, and there's this, it's a back and forth between part of it's Stargirl and part of it's Martian Manhunter, and the progression of where that goes. Very strong story for Stargirl. This whole particular arc has been a very strong story for Stargirl. Actually, this entire series, her coming into her own and becoming that hero that she always knew she was inside and wanted to be, and nobody else would let her be, and she kind of has a moment to shine throughout the series. And Martian Manhunter, some big things happen for Martian Manhunter, and I'll leave it at that. But it was a fantastic issue. The art was, beautiful. Story constructed very nicely. Some emotional moments throughout it. It was just a really good story. This book has been really good since Forever Evil started. So if you tried it, jumped off of it, I'd recommend finding the Forever Evil stuff. It is its own story. It does tie into the larger story, but it can be read just on its own, just for the Stargirl Martian Manhunter stuff, and it is fantastic. So that's why Justice League of America comes in at number 4.
Number 3.
Coming in at number 3 is part 3 of 5 of The Trial of Jean Grey. This is All New X-Men number 23, and I know this book has gotten some mixed reviews. Personally, I really enjoyed it. I did a solo review on Comic Frontline of this one and gave it a 4.5. Fantastic issue. I thought it progressed the story nicely for me, personally anyway. There was progression of Jean Grey and her learning about herself and why she's there and all this stuff. The imagery, the panel work, the coloring throughout this book, just fantastic setup. throughout from cover to cover for me. Some nice banter between the Guardians of the Galaxy and the original X-Men. The getting geeked out over being in space and talking to a talking tree and a talking raccoon and all this stuff. Then the whole Shi'ar is there and that whole facet of it. And I just really enjoyed this issue, and I think it was very strong, both script-wise and artistically, and for the story itself. So that's why it lands at number 3.
Number 2.
So number 2 is a bit of a surprise. It is technically a DC book, but it's from Vertigo. And this is The Royals, Masters of War, number 1 of 6. This, I didn't really know what to expect from this book, but it was really good. It centers around the royal family during World War II. The royal family being the royal family of England, the British royal family. The royal family is superpowered, but they don't normally engage in battles. Years past, centuries past, they did. But their whole line is like superpowered beings, and they don't really get involved until this issue kicks off with one of the younger prince getting involved in the battle. And that causes all this other chaos and controversy, as we find out by the end of the issue. I thought it was a very bold and interesting story to tell. And the art, amazing. It has a painterly style to it, but it is just so beautiful to look at. It's fantastic art. There are scenes with the World War planes firing on each other, so there's all these battle scenes, 2-page spreads and that kind of thing. Then you have the quieter scenes at the ball, at the palace, and stuff like that. Just a really innovative, fantastic story. I'd highly recommend checking this out. I think Vertigo does a lot of great stuff, and this is definitely one of them. Unexpected. It just kind of popped up out of nowhere for me because I wasn't even thinking about it, and I saw, I'll try this, and it kind of blew me away. So that's why The Royals, Masters of War, lands at number 2.
Number 1.
Alright, so here we are. The number 1 book on this week's top 5 is a DC book. It is Batman, number 28. This is a break from the 0-year story to give us a tease, a kind of a preview into Batman Eternal, which is the new weekly series launching later this year in celebration of the 75th anniversary of Batman. And we've been promised for months now that big things are happening. Big things are coming for this Batman Eternal. We've known a few returns, or a couple of returns are coming in that book. And we actually get one of those in this book. And unlike certain people, I'm not going to spoil the end of the book, but it was a fantastic last page, I'll say that, if you have not seen it and if you've not read it. Even though you might have known it was coming, it was still pretty cool to see it this early, because I wasn't expecting it this early. This was very interesting. It's not too distant future in the current continuity, and it starts off with Batman has a new Robin, which is Harper. And I'm not going to say why he has a new Robin, but he has a new Robin, and all this stuff is different. Catwoman is the kingpin of crime, basically. And this is the new status quo that we're heading towards, apparently. So it's going to be very interesting seeing how we get from where things are right now in the Bat books and everything to where that's going. And we've taken this entire year in the main Batman title to kind of look back at his 0 year, so we don't necessarily know, except for the involvement that Batman has in Forever Evil and all that stuff. We don't know exactly what else has been happening in this time. So to see where things are going to end up after 0 year and how they get to this point, it's going to be a very fun ride. But this was a fantastic issue, and I'm looking forward to what's to come in Batman Eternal, and that's why this book ranks at number 1. So that was your top 5 for this week. In my opinion, some great books there. I gave you 7 total books, including the honorable mentions, and there were a couple other books that were just underneath this week. So lots of good stuff out there, lots of good stuff coming. Looking forward to reading some of the books for next week. But I hope you enjoyed this week's top 5, and let me know in the comments below whether you agree or not and what your top 5 are for the week. So until next week, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Check out comicrelated.com. Check out comicfrontline.com, Comic Frontline on YouTube, and the Zone 4 podcast, of course, every Friday on zone4podcast.com, comicrelated.com, iTunes, Stitcher, comicspodcasts.com, and Comic Frontline's YouTube channel. So until next week, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Gonzo Goose production.